definitely a lot of confusion when it comes to the timeline in Kiely Rodni's case. A lot of those irregularities are courtesy of a certain Truckee local, but at the same time, there were things that were said in the media that were also later contradicted. Before I continue, you may hear a strange sound in the background, like that. I've been trying to record, but my cat has got hold of her favourite toy, which just happens to make a mouse or sort of mouse noise. And I keep having to stop and start recording again. I'm just going to push on and try and ignore the mouse noises because otherwise I'm going to be here all day trying to record just one single sound clip. As far as coverage of Kiely's case, Grizzly was one of the first channels to start looking at it. So the other day, I was looking at one of Grizzly's earlier Kiely videos and realised just how many irregularities and inconsistencies there were from those early days of the case. I'm going to share some of them with you right now.
Driving through back roads, streets, anywhere where you can drive, where you think a car could go, that's where we need to check in bushes on the sides of the road, said Sammy Smith, a close friend of Rodney's who is spearheading search efforts. Smith cautioned searchers to be cognizant of items like car bumpers and license plates that may be spotted on the side of the road. Should such an item be spotted, the location and other information should be texted to Smith. Okay, so you can text her at 530-414-4109, or should Rodney or a vehicle be spotted, the Placer County Sheriff's Office should be contacted immediately.
Okay, admittedly, the first clip isn't an irregularity or an inconsistency, but it stood out to me that in this article that Gisela read, it says that they wanted you to look out for any pieces of car, and if you found anything like that, that they wanted you to text a location to Sammy. But then if you found Kiely or her car, you should contact authorities. Sounds, well, a bit sus, right? Trying to control what tips go where really early on. We know this happened, but I thought it was worthwhile just highlighting that particular point.
Truckee mom, April Cole, came by the tent to offer her assistance in obtaining food and beverages for the volunteers. Shout out to April Cole. She's got a son the same age as Rodney, but who was not in attendance at the party. He wasn't there, but he woke up in the morning and he was like, "Oh my God, this party was crazy. And there's a girl missing." And it felt so close to home, Cole said.
Okay, we know that there is an April Cole and that she is someone totally unrelated to Megan Cole. I think, personally, from the language here, that this definitely was April Cole. I know some people have speculated that it might have been Megan giving April's name, but at this point in time, no one knew who Megan was, and we know that Megan quite enjoyed coming forward and being in the spotlight. By all means, this is definitely not a new part of the narrative. But there's one thing here that I find interesting and that has bugged me from the very beginning that I wanted to point out. She talks about how her son didn't go to the party because no one's kids went to the party, right? And she says that he got up in the morning and said the party was wild and someone went missing. Unless Maddie actually knew something had happened to Kiely. Here's what I'm thinking. We hear the story over and over and again that the kids go and party in the woods, and if they've drunk too much, they bunker down and they sleep in their cars. So why, in the morning after the party, would a teenage boy who didn't go to the party be saying that someone has gone missing? When, at that point in time, unless kids knew something, and well, I think we know that they did, then wouldn't they have been out looking for someone that they expected to have stopped somewhere and be sleeping in her car? It makes no sense to me that the morning after the party that people would be saying someone went missing. And also, it seems odd to me the way that it is described. The party was wild and someone went missing. It makes it sound like the two events are concurrent. Someone went missing at the party. If it's early the morning, or if it's even just the morning after the party, and this boy has heard that someone went missing, wouldn't he be like, well, now someone is missing? I don't know. I might be wrong here. Leave a comment below, let me know what you think.
Police say Kiely's phone hasn't been on since she left the party, and investigators have been unable to track down her silver 2013 Honda CR-V, which bears California license plates 8YUR127. All right, so she was last seen wearing green Dickies pants, a black tank top, numerous piercings, a nose ring, and other jewelry.
So first of all, there's the statement that her phone hadn't been on since she left the party. And this isn't the first instance where it has been suggested that Kiely was seen leaving the party. I do want to note here that there is one account somewhere where someone reckons that they saw Kiely's car leaving the party. They believe they saw Kiely in the car with two boys. That makes me think of somebody else who seems to have her little posse of boys that follow around behind her everywhere. From what we now know of Kiely, I believe that were she herself driving her car and seen leaving the party, that she wouldn't have had passengers in her car. Kiely was a good girl. She'd told her mother that she was heading home at a particular time. If she was able to drive her car and leave the party, she would have been heading home. She wouldn't have had boys in her car. And yes, anyone who's been in this from the beginning knows that this is an irregularity that we've all spoken about millions of times. But they mentioned her wearing a tank top, not a bodysuit. I do want to highlight that because I think that is something that is really crucial as far as screw-ups by law enforcement. And I think it shows that that photo of Sammy was actually a photo of Sammy and it wasn't Kiely at a truck stop.
Okay, here's a GoFundMe, and it's on the official Instagram page, so that's good. But with the consent, of Kylie's parents, I'm starting this GoFundMe to help increase the reward for her return. We hope this will encourage more people to come forward with any information that can bring the sweet girl home.
And there's your proof right there that they used the GoFundMe to defraud people. It specifically says when it was first introduced that the GoFundMe was there to increase the reward money and to encourage more people to try and help find Kiely. There were no provisions added onto it. It was to help increase the reward money. There was nothing said in early days about it being money that was going to be given to the family. The change in the wording only occurred after it was announced that Adventures with Purpose were going to come and look for Kiely. Adventures with Purpose's reputation was well known at the time when the GoFundMe was changed. Did someone who had control over the GoFundMe know that when Adventures with Purpose came, that they were quite possibly going to find Kiely's car? Whose idea was it to keep the money and give it to the family?
Friends said Kiely was in good spirits and having fun that night at the Prosser family campground, 35 miles west of Reno. But what was supposed to be a goodbye send-off of a few dozen kids under the pine trees turned into a party of 200 to 300 teenagers and young adults, according to other reports.
Okay, so even though law enforcement have claimed that there were 200 to 300 kids, a lot of accounts make it sound like there really were only a few dozen kids there. So I find it fascinating that at this point, this article actually says the party was only meant to be a few dozen kids. what's the real truth here? Was it a small party with a few dozen kids? Is that why the people that saw cars leaving only saw a small trail of cars? Is that why there wasn't any huge amount of noise going on? Or were there 200 to 300 kids?
Friends say kids from Reno high schools and the University of Nevada, Reno, showed up. Police say Kiely was last seen sometime around 12:30 a.m. early Saturday morning. Sammy said Kylie's car, which is also missing, was parked less than 100 yards from where she and other teens had gathered. So how did no one see her leaving?
So was this one of those snippets of information that was eventually removed from all the bits and pieces that were being told? That her car was only a few hundred yards from where the party happened? Because Gisela is right here. If the car was only a few hundred yards from where the party is happening, at 12:30 at night, there's still going to be so many kids around, even if they hadn't paid attention to her car leaving. Although, as I said, there are accounts of people seeing her car leaving, a girl with two boys in the car. Surely someone would have had to have seen her at the party to get a couple of hundred yards from the party to your car. You're going to pass some people. People are going to see you. Is this why that bit of information was dropped? Because otherwise it would be hard to explain why no one was coming forward.
There were plenty of attendees whom she had not previously met. Well, of course, it's 200 to 300 people, but none who seemed suspicious, gave unwanted attention, or followed the pair around. Now, that's weird because earlier she said, in other articles, earlier, like yesterday, she got a bad feeling about all this. She had a bad feeling when all these people arrived that they didn't know. So 1 minute you have a bad feeling and now you're saying it's not suspicious? I mean, maybe it's just the news reporting it wrong. I don't know. She said she didn't notice anyone much older and that the party consisted mainly of teens, recent graduates, and some college students from the surrounding areas. That's not what we looked at yesterday, right? Right?
I can sense one of those famous grizzly snarks coming on. But she is spot on. Here they're saying that there was no older people there other than some college kids, and that there wasn't anyone there that stood out as being scary. And then on the other hand, you've got Sammy saying that it was kind of scary and even she was overwhelmed. And you've got Megan Cole claiming that there was a 40-year-old there. Honestly, for a case where they're trying to convince us that it was nothing but an unfortunate accident and that nothing nefarious happened, why are there so many glaring inconsistencies?
So search crews and police from multiple counties scoured the area beginning early Tuesday morning. Several aircraft, including helicopters, airplanes, flying in formation above.
So while unfortunately most of the flight paths that people recorded on the YouTube channels are no longer available to us, however, I find it interesting that in this article they mention that they were airplanes flying in formation. We know that there were a heck of a lot of aircraft that went over the top of Prosser. We also know, according to Doug Bishop, that helicopter pilots said that they could see the bottom of the reservoir. I don't know if any of you remember, there was a live stream that Tennessee Yankee did shortly before his channel went kapoof. And in that live stream, he was playing flight paths and he was counting the number of times that aircraft flew over the location where Kylie's vehicle was. And it was well in the double digits. I can't remember the number, but I think it was well over 20 something. And he showed that on that live stream. Like I said, unfortunately that's gone. We can't look at that. But I think everything that we're looking at points to the fact that Kylie's car was not in that reservoir originally.
All-terrain vehicles including four-wheelers, trikes, dirt bikes. There were canines present and at least 100 members of law enforcement visible, including members of the FBI, who initially focused their attention on campsite 4.
This is another forgotten tidbit. Campsite 4. What was so important about Campsite 4? What told them that that's where they should be focusing on? I've got a request here for those locals who are part of the squirrel squad, let's call it. It would be really great if someone could go out and take photos or do a video of Campsite 4. You've got Shan's email address. I'll add my email address also to the description for this video. It'd be great if someone could contact either myself or Shan with a video or photos of Campsite 4.
Around 12:15 a.m., she texted her parents that she was heading home. However, according to her mother, no one has come forward to say they saw her leave. No one was with her at the time. And nobody could remember when she left or seeing her car drive away. Her phone, which last pinged at the party, has been turned off. Authorities say a vehicle, a silver Honda or 2013 Honda CR-V, with a California license plate 8YUR127, is also unaccounted for.
Okay, so two things here. One is that they say quite confidently her phone was turned off. It could just be the media taking a bit of license here and taking the information they were given and making assumptions. But it still sounds more solid than the whole airy-fairy. At 12:03 her location stopped sharing, and then at 12:33 it went off grid completely. Could it be that her phone was turned off at 12:03? Or was it turned off at 12:33 and then subsequently destroyed? The other interesting thing here is that they say that she texted her mum at 12:15 to say that she was on her way home. This is interesting because later accounts say that the last communication was the 11:30 communication when she said she'd be heading home in 45 minutes. But there is one interview with Lindsay where she mentioned that Kiely contacted her at 12:15 and said she was on her way home. It was also said that this was a thing that Kiely would usually do when she was out somewhere, that she would contact as she was leaving and saying, I'm on my way. My thoughts here are that either Lindsay got a bit of flack for basically falling asleep and not waiting up for her daughter, or that there was a text that went through at 12:15 which went from Kiely's phone saying that she was on her way home, but perhaps it wasn't Kiely who texted that. There's something here, I think, in this. This was in a Fox 40 report. They're the same ones who reported that Jagger said that he had been at the party and that when he left the party he told Kiely not to do anything stupid. They're also, of course, the ones that followed Kate and Jagger to Reno and said that Jagger was Kylie's boyfriend. This could have been just to sell their story, because a story isn't going to sell as well if they're like, this is her ex-boyfriend who's searching for her. So it's possible that the 12:15 could just be sloppy reporting. I don't think we should put it as a solid fact, but I don't think we should discount it completely either, when we know that normal pattern for Kiely would have been for her to have done such a thing. So there's really nothing new or earth-shattering in these clips that I've just played. But I think that they're still important, and I think they're things that we need to keep in mind. They're things that, some of them, we've forgotten, and other things that we've perhaps overlooked. And as far as inconsistencies and irregularities, they're really just the tip of the iceberg. But I think it's important that we do record things such as these.